Hi, everybody. I want to thank everybody to come back in here with us to episode 2 of our Shahs Rewatch on the Till the Dirt platform. This week, we have a very special guest. Joan, I don't want to butcher the pronunciation of your last name. How do you pronounce your last name?
You actually had it right. Yeah, it's Slahuka.
Slahuka.
Yeah, Slahuka. So
Okay.
good job. Yeah.
Joan Slahuka, who
Yeah.
had the genius idea for us to do this. So I thought that it was only apropos that we had her on as soon as possible to rewatch one of these episodes. Now, how big a reality fan are you, Joan?
Huge. Bravo is, I love Bravo. I've been watching Bravo for years. And honestly, during the pandemic, it was probably running on my TV 24 hours a day. And my husband got involved with it too. And like, even though he says he doesn't enjoy watching the shows, he always has an opinion and he likes to scream at the TV sometimes. So I made a Bravo or reality fan out of him as well. And we also like other shows on Peacock. There's other reality shows we like, but I love to be a voyeur in other people's lives. So I like to live through vicariously through others. So these reality shows really make my life better.
Now, you said a couple of interesting things. One, you said that, like, when I asked you to do this, you
Mhm.
said that this was not normal to you. This was definitely stepping
Yeah.
out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
First off, hats off, because I feel like we should always do that every
Mhm.
year. We should try to do a couple of things that we don't normally wouldn't want to do. That's
Mhm.
how we grow. How you feeling so far? So far, so good?
Yeah, and I actually one of the reasons why I reached out to you and MJ is because of some of the things that you said on your podcast about, trying something new. And you made a statement once about when you have an idea, it's only a dream until you do something about it. I don't think those are your exact words. So I was like, have a few ideas, and I have like a file that I have my ideas in. So I was just like, you know what? What's it going to harm if I just send them a direct message about this idea? So you kind of pushed me to do what I was thinking of. So I
Well, I'm
appreciate
happy that I pushed. I'm
it.
happy that you took that next step.
Hmm.
And so far, so good, man. I don't know if anybody likes what we're doing yet. We'll find out. But even not,
Yeah.
I still, it's been a good, you know, to go down memory lane a little bit and watch my drunkish wife. Like, I feel like we need to call it. I think we need to get this girl a sponsor after watching that episode. But when you also said another interesting thing before we get into the rewatch, we've actually met.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody that listens to the pod on the Till the Dirt feed knows that we talked about our Catalina trip last year. I think it might have even been the year before at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with my buddy and his wife. They've now gone their separate ways, but
Hmm.
they were a train wreck of a couple. And we actually met you guys on that trip when you said we took a photo.
Yeah. And it was really
Awesome.
nice because my husband actually recognized Shams for you and Shams first. And he's like, oh, I think that's MJ and Tommy, and that's Shams. And so he went up to you and said something to you. And then you were so sweet because you said, "Did you want a picture?" And I always am kind of sheepish about asking people, especially when they're with their family, famous people for pictures. But you're like, come on in. Like it was just like something very nice. And then one of your friends took the picture. So we really appreciate it. But you all were very welcoming.
I personally feel, unlike with athletes and even like movies, I feel like with reality people you are obligated to
Hmm.
take those photos. Now, I'm not saying that like that's what I meant, that like I had to
Right.
take that picture with you.
Right.
I don't mean it in that way. I feel like if I'm out and about and you see me, don't
Hmm.
ever have that second thought. If you want a photo and that's going to make your day a little bit better, come get it. I got no problem taking it. I don't
Hmm.
care what's going on in my life. I'll be happy to take the photo with you if it's going to make
Hmm.
your day a little bit better.
Hmm.
Athletes go into years and years of training to be great at their sport. And, it's different. Like a reality teller, we're only here, or you only want to take the photo with me because of you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, so don't even ever think twice of that. If we ever see you again on Catalina, pull up a chair, let's get shit faced. My wife will probably have a drink in hand.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think
Mhm.
we could jump back into the little bit of the redo. And
Yeah.
so, what are you thinking so far? Now, did you watch? How many times have you watched Shots?
I watch it every week. Like it was
Okay.
something that I've seen from the very beginning all the way to the last show. I hadn't watched it obviously for a while because it wasn't available, but I know that it came, like the first season was available maybe a couple months ago. So I
On
started watching it here
Peacock.
and there. Yeah. And then when
Not,
Peacock
I'm
had it
sorry.
all,
I'm sorry,
it
on
was on
Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yes. And then Peacock put the whole series out.
Yeah, but it was good to go back and look at it because one of the reasons why I started watching the show is it was so unique because it was so outside of the norm of what I knew. Like, you know, we all kind of live in our little bubbles or the neighborhoods we grew up in or where we work. And I there was a whole new environment. And I remember that by watching it again, because I watched episode 1 and 2, and I'm starting to watch 3 again, is that what a different world, like the Persian families or the Persian community is than where I grew up, and probably where you grew up as well. But you know, wow, they're very, very, you know, ostentatious. Not a lot, you know, they're great TV. You learn some great things. So I thought this episode was really good to watch, just to see their lifestyle and what they, you know, putting together a party and now going to Vegas, and the suite was huge. So anyways, I don't want to keep, you know, rambling
No,
on,
you're
but
good. You're good.
yeah.
You're good. Yeah, that's great in detail.
Mhm,
I like that you actually went back and like kind of redid it. Lisa, for example, who was on
mhm,
last week and she's watched Shahs 10 times all the way
mhm.
through. So she's
Yeah.
like, she knows what's up. So I just want to get a gauge
Mhm.
of where you're at. And that you're like me. I've never, well, you watched it through, obviously.
Yeah.
I've never seen any of these
Mhm.
episodes. And, I feel like every nationality, any type of ethnic group
Mhm.
has a daughter who has a mother like Vida, or
Right.
has a gay friend, or like I feel like there's always. But I think you're right. I think they very much hit the nail on the head with doing it with the Persian community, because
Mhm.
I don't think that every community is like that. I don't think
Right.
they're all, like that, and about the gold and about the shine and about,
Mhm.
being ostentatious, which is a great word and a great way to
Mhm.
describe them. So I think that, they did an excellent job. Now, again, at that time, only because I know, we discussed this a little bit last week on the episode. Jesse, who was the one that recorded or was the one that created Shahs, like the
Mhm.
actual one that went out and did all that, they were looking at that time because of the success of Jersey Shore, to kind of capture that in other ethnic groups.
Mhm.
They did it a bunch, but none of them hit off like Shahs, because I
Mhm.
think that they, like you said, I think they know what it takes to make good TV.
Mhm.
It's definitely a dynamic that, you know, and calling a spade, Reza leading out in front, like
Mhm.
Reza definitely, you know, you're a big reality TV fan. What would
Mhm.
you say the Mount Rushmore of reality shows are for you?
Um, I would say, um, well, most recent, like Vanderpump Rules. I think that
Okay.
last year that Scandal or Scandal really shot that up. Housewives, a lot of the Housewives show from.
Which would you have a favorite?
I would say my favorite is Beverly Hills now. It was Orange County for a while. And again, I think
Okay.
it has a lot to do with, because I'm from, I live in Southern California too. So I think it's somewhat exciting to see people like
That
that.
you might actually see them,
Right.
like
Or
you
you go to
bumped
the,
into us.
right. Or you go right into, you see the same restaurant, or you're like, you know what street they're filming on,
Mhm.
whatever, any of those things. But, like I said, Shaw's was interesting to me because, again, I learned so much, or the people are so interesting. Like you talked about Reza, and Reza really he stood out from the very beginning. And he really, I mean, Reza today is almost the Reza that he was back then too on TV.
The
Like if you
reason
see
that was the reason I kind of went from one thing to the
him.
other, because like, and we discussed this a little bit last week too, and I know that we discussed this on Till the Dirt as well. Like you couldn't have made a person in a laboratory that
Mhm.
was more ready to be on reality television than
Mhm.
Reza Farhan at that particular moment in time too. Because
Mhm.
like my wife always says, and she makes a great point now, these shows have been around so long that, like, when there's a new show or when there's a new housewife on one of these shows, that person has now watched so much of these
Mhm.
shows that they're like, when I get on, I know what I'm going to do. I know
Mhm.
how I'm going to. There was no reference point for the
Right.
Shahs when this was back then. They were
Mhm.
kind of just, they were the innovators. And this is, he hit the ground running. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
he knew so much of what to do that there are now people watching shows that watch him saying that I'm going to do that because he knew what to do, you know? So
Mhm.
that's the one thing that but through both episodes have really just like jumped off the screen to me. And it's not necessarily that oh, you'll love Reza or you love Reza. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
getting at. I'm
Right.
just looking at it objectively as someone who's actually been on these shows too, to
Mhm.
say that, wow, this guy really understood exactly what they were looking for. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? He
Yeah.
gives it because, again, and I don't want each episode to be the same, but like we talked about this a little last week as well, Sammy was the nucleus. He was the guy that the show was basically everybody revolved around him.
Mhm.
And you could kind of tell early on, Shahs wasn't going to go anywhere if that's the way it was going to be, you know?
Right.
Reza immediately moved to the forefront and pushed the bus.
Mhm.
And, they found the right guy. He was perfect for it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Sammy because when I looked at the group or when I started to watch the show again, it almost felt like he didn't belong. Like, or he was like almost like someone's visiting uncle or something. Like he's good. He seems like he's a really nice guy, but he didn't have that fire in the belly. There's something special that some people have. And again, I'm not no, a lot of people shouldn't be on TV and a lot of people can't be on TV, but like it was interesting. It was interesting to hear that he was the nucleus or the starting point, because when you look at some of the other characters, for lack of better words, some of the other people that are on the show, they just are so different. Like I want to talk about like MJ, like watching this episode with MJ basically drunk from start to finish, and
Literally.
where she is today,
Yeah.
like she's having a moment, like from Traders and being on the Jeff Lewis show and all the great things that's going on in her life. And when you look back, and she has a twinkle in her eye, she's being mischievous, but her drunk episode, it just really cracked me up to think of when you see MJ today, how polished and professional she is versus when
Joan,
she figured it out.
Joan, she's my wife
I
and the
know.
mother of my kid. You know what I mean? You think what the
No,
fuck you're thinking. Imagine what I'm thinking. I'm looking at this
exactly.
lady. Like I
Mhm.
said, she looked like she just like she escaped the Betty Ford clinic. Like, what's
Uh-huh.
going on? What's
Right.
this lady doing? Like you said, literally from the start of the episode to the finish of the episode, she was intoxicated. She drank so much in that episode that I'm not entirely convinced that she might not be a little drunk right now from it.
Yeah.
And I know how those episodes work. You know, it's not in a direct amount of time, right? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? There's little breaks in the action, there's edits that's going on. She was literally intoxicated the whole time. Like those um those talking heads, right?
Mhm.
Those don't happen like Jersey Shore, for example, has a room that they could go in and do those talking heads as things are transpiring. So
Mhm.
they could do them as they go. That's not how it works with Bravo, or at
Mhm.
least on Shahs. Like that's a separate filming event where you go when
Mhm.
you film. And she looked like she was bombed at that thing. You know, she looked
Exactly.
like what? Like she looked like she was bombed through the whole thing. And
Mhm.
not to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, and I'll actually be ruder when I say it.
Mhm.
I love Sammy. Sammy's actually one of my wife's closest friends. He's probably my best friend of her friends, especially of the Persian groups.
Mhm.
Um, and he doesn't look good for TV.
Mhm.
Like he needs to do something with the hair. The hair don't
Mhm.
look good. The
Right.
hats, the scarves,
Mhm.
like I don't know who's dressing them. It's all bad, man. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Yeah.
It's all bad. But this was obviously the first time that they get to go away, travel, turn up, so to
Mhm.
speak. My wife definitely leaned into it, but I'm curious as to what you think about the other characters so far. Now, you said you've watched one and you've
Mhm.
watched two.
Yeah.
What are you thinking so far? Who's jumping off the screen? Who you like? Who don't you like?
Mhm. Well, it's funny because I liked Anita, but I didn't remember her. It was one
Yeah,
of those, and I thought she had some good episodes. I thought this was a good episode for her. But I don't remember her, and I don't even know how long she was on. Gigi, what she's like a firecracker. There's so many things I could say about Gigi just because she's got like multiple personalities almost. Like even in this show, if you watch her, like she's sweet at one moment, she's flirty, she's angry, she's jealous, she's talking trash. she's upset, she's happy, she's over exaggerating the flight. You know, there's all these things. So I've always found her to be interesting, but she's so explosive that like it's so not my personality. And I couldn't imagine having someone in my world like that. But boy, she's just a bag of tricks. Like
She's
you don't
the Persian Sybil, in other
exactly,
words.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, it's funny that you said what you said, and it's also, you know, too, because you're a veteran from watching these shows. Like they're looking for the person that's going to be a little nutty, right?
Mhm,
And you could tell in that first episode, or the second episode, I should say, the one we just watched, with Anita. She was trying to be classy. She was trying to be reserved. She
mhm,
was trying to, you know, I don't want to go in the dirt with you. And, you know, like, I'm not looking to have a fist fight at the pool in Las Vegas, which
mhm.
Gigi would happily have done that, you know?
Right.
And I think the
Mhm,
producers would love that too, because it's great
mhm,
television, right? So I could see why someone like Anita didn't last, because she
mhm.
wasn't willing to, you know, come on the bus with rollers in her hair, and she
Right.
wasn't willing to, you know, throw down at the pool. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm,
there's a certain element of you know, like decorum that they're not expecting you to have when you're on these shows. And I
mhm,
think that you know, she did seem, and I've met Anita. Like I don't always met, I've met her. Not enough. You know, you and I probably had a longer conversation at this point than she and I ever had.
mhm,
But she definitely was nice. She definitely was classy. She definitely seemed like she was a nice lady. But I just don't know if she was ready for the alligator pit, which is
mhm.
Shahs, you know?
Yeah. Mike's interesting because as a woman, I never trusted him. Like from the very beginning. And it's interesting to go back and see things like I think it's ridiculous that he got on the bus with like a Wall Street Journal, whatever the newspaper was, and like his briefcase, like
So
he was going to
much.
do business. It's like we know why you're going to Vegas, you guys, especially going on a private. Like you can talk all you want about your success in Vegas or your success in real estate or your what in your life, but actions speak louder than words. And like, were you truly as successful as you think you were, and as you're telling people you are? I just when I saw that, I was like, what is he? You know, what is he
That's a
doing? It's
great pull by you. It's a
mhm,
great pull by you, because I'm watching, like, I didn't think of that, but now
mhm,
just saying it, it's so, it's so on brand, for one,
mhm,
for who we're
mhm.
talking about. And
Yeah.
it's the reason why it makes, you know, trusting him be very difficult,
Mhm,
because you've seen so many little breadcrumbs like you're talking about, which there wasn't, you know, there was no lie said. You don't know if that was a lie. You don't know if like
mhm,
he wasn't really there, but you're just like, really?
mhm.
Like, I didn't see him open the paper once while he was in Vegas. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like it's
Exactly.
just this, it's this, um, and to me, it's a very Persian thing too, I
Mhm,
think, or at least I don't, because I don't equate it to my friends from back home. Like if my friends from back home were on reality television, they might be standoffish for a little while, but without, you know, you're filming for a while. It's not like you're
mhm,
filming for 10 minutes. You're filming for 2, 3, 5, 6 hours at a time. And it would be
mhm,
a matter of time before, with my friends, they're going to be who they are. It's kind of like with me. I can't, you know, I'm going to be who I am. And I think with Mike and the Persian culture in particular, because I've seen it with Shervin too, and I've seen it with other people that they've had on, they have like, they want to put their best, you know, the best representation of themselves
mhm.
forward. They want
Right.
you to see that. They don't want you to see the warts. And sometimes, you know, people that are astute like you're a smart lady, I can already tell, especially from watching these shows. Like you're going to see through a lot of that shit. And if
Mhm,
you do that stuff too much, now when you are telling the truth, it's going to be very hard for them to believe you, because you've done so many other things that make me
mhm.
question you. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you a question. So
sure.
when you watch this episode, and we talked about MJ during this episode, and she's drunk from start to finish. We both agreed with that. You didn't know her at that time. You met her a few years after that. How did that make you feel when you were watching it? Did you, you know, what were some of your
Well,
thoughts?
first off, it's a great question. And I think, and you know, prior to me marrying her, right, and having a baby with her, I would be like, that's my wife. You know what
Mhm,
I mean? Like, look at her. Now looking at it, it's like, what are you doing? How,
Mhm.
like, you've had a drink in your hand literally the whole that why you know what I mean, like how drunk do you want to get, so there is an element now where I would never call it embarrassment because she doesn't embarrass me. Like
Yeah.
she's my wife and
Mhm.
I know how big of a nut she is,
Mhm.
but there's an element of like, what are we doing, dude? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Someone else should have said something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Instead
Right.
of encouraging it, someone
Mhm.
else should have been like, yeah, maybe you want to just take a little bit of a break, just. But yeah, she definitely tied one on in that, in that scene or in that show, in this episode. Like, she's told, like, that's been a topic in our relationship prior
Mhm.
to, like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, when we went to Vegas and I got drunk. Oh yeah, when we went to, because like people like you coming
Mhm.
up onto her in the street and want to take a picture. That's one of the episodes they'll always talk about. So
Mhm.
I kind of knew that this was coming, but I had no idea that like she drank that much. Like that was crazy. That
Well,
was crazy.
it looks like she was having fun though.
Oh
And
yes, yes,
you know,
yes,
so, and I
yes.
think we've all had those moments. If anyone is a drink, or, like I think back in college, like thank God cell phones weren't around when I was in college,
Oh,
or TikTok wasn't around, or anything like that. Like, thank God, because I'm sure we all have those
oh,
episodes
for
or times
sure.
that,
For
it just,
sure.
you're just
The
like,
part that
oh,
I don't like is when she gets a little too drunk. It's not like the sloppiness or like, that she gets catty. And I
mm-hmm.
don't like that because she's
Yeah.
not normally like that. Like they get like there's a side of her that comes out that, you know, put it this way, like you'll, I've seen other people say it.
Hmm.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I've seen, and people that don't like her. Like
Hmm.
people say, I hate MJ. She's evil, or she's always up to something, and she's talking to, like when she's bombed like that, she doesn't remember 2 seconds earlier. So
Right.
like the 2 breaths earlier, she might have been sticking up for the person, but now she's talking to someone else that's putting her down. So she's
Hmm.
like, yeah, that girl sucks. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's not
Yeah.
like she's not twirling her mustache thinking about how
Right.
she can be evil. She's just bombed. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Hmm.
there is that element of that where it's like, don't get catty now. And like it was, but she did stick up for Gigi, which is
Hmm.
another reason that, I mean, granted, we're 2 episodes in, so I
Right.
don't, I don't know, but I only know from the time that I shot and just life, right? Where I feel like my wife more often than not has had Gigi's back. And like for Gigi to always be so anti MJ, I don't really get it. I don't,
Hmm.
I'm that I don't really understand. And maybe I'll see some things that will give me a more of a picture. But Gigi's giving it to my wife just as good as my wife is whatever giving it to her. So
Right.
I don't understand with that. But I thought that was a nice moment where my wife was kind of, you guys are being a little too rude here. It's no reason to, X her out because, like you said, I don't, I think Gigi should go to therapy. I think
Hmm.
that Gigi should have a therapist that she should speak with because she definitely does not have a good control of her emotions.
Hmm.
She either acts out or fucking acts crazy, or like when she even said in the clip, which was like where I came and sat down and nobody's giving me any attention. And you could see that like now she's going to make some attention for herself. If you're
Hmm.
not going to give it, and it wasn't in this episode, but the coming scenes, she left. I'm
Hmm.
stunned. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's
Hmm.
just, it's like, calling the ambulance because you got gas. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? It's like, and she's a kid in a lot of ways in this episode.
Hmm.
Like this is Rez's 38th birthday. I don't think she's even cracked 30 yet in
Okay.
this episode. I don't know, but I
Hmm.
don't think she has. So she's a
Yeah.
kid, but nevertheless, there's still a lot of arrested development with her, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and I think you kind of start with the whole her interactions with Chris. Brings Chris on to make Mike jealous, doesn't work out, kind of pushes him to the side, ignores him. Like it's very typical high school, mean girl reaction to some of these things. So.
Joan, you and I got to sit down and hang out one day because we're speaking the same fucking language, man.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly what I thought with she thought the dude Chris was going to come in and just like make Mike cry in his milk.
Mm-hmm.
Mike knew him. That like you couldn't imagine a worse outcome like for her than that. You know, like,
Right.
oh my God, they not only know each other, they're friendly. This is like he could have left. You know what I mean? Like you could have gone home at this point, and she was mad at him for knowing him. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it was just it was very you know, it was par for the course for her as well. Now, who do you think, like knowing where everything kind of ended up, who do you think changed the most from what you're watching? Or do you think they even changed at all?
Well, you know, I'll keep saying MJ because I think you see her evolve and change. And I think that, well, I know that, you know, you coming into her life also changed. Like she grew up, you know, she had, you know, her dad and, you know, losing her dad or having her dad sick. And there's so many important people in her life that she, I think, become more vulnerable to. And I think she just kind of opened up. And I think at the beginning, she probably was more concerned what her friends thought of her or she wanted to fit in. It's a continuation of like high school or her you know, her close friends, but I think as her maybe her breadth of friends changed, I think it allowed her to change as well. That's just me being, you know,
No,
you know.
I obviously I'm partial, right? But I think if you're going to put anybody out there,
Yeah.
it's definitely her because she went through the most life on the show. Like, you know, there were years and whatever, but she had, like you said, she had a dad that she was very close to almost die, or I should say that did die. She's had a mother that was brutal, that, you know, was along every step of the way during the show. I came into the picture. She had a kid. I know that she said that's something she never even wanted or expected. So, and I think that, you know, like Asa had growth too, but she didn't put any of it on the show.
Right.
So you didn't see any of it. You know what I mean? You didn't, like, everything was kind of what she put out there. So you didn't actually, you know, dig your feet in the dirt with her and kind of see the growth. Where my wife, I think you definitely did. Good or bad, you could still, like, it doesn't mean that everybody has to love MJ, but I do think that she had more growth than anybody else on the show.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like we said before, Reza was Reza from the beginning to the end. Like, and he was an important part, but I mean, there's things that of course everyone changes, but I mean, looking back, I mean, I couldn't believe, I'm like, God, you know, if you saw him on one of the other reality shows, he's exactly the same way today, 12 years, 10 years later than he was that very first day at a very early reality show. So it's good for him.
Again, we're speaking the same language. And that's even a better point than you just made, because yes, if you, that's a better way of putting it. Like you could have canceled Shahs the day after they started filming it and said, you know what, none of you guys are going to work. But Reza, we're going to put you on Housewives. And he would hit the fucking ground running. You know what I mean? Or Reza, you're going to be the new manager at Vanderpump. Got it. No problem. I'll be over there this afternoon. Like it doesn't matter. He'll figure out a way to get him, like, to make himself work within the confines of what they're doing. You know, he's, like I said, he was perfect for the show, and they definitely needed him, you know, especially early on before it kind of hits their stride and everybody more or less gets comfortable and finds out who they are. He's the one that's kind of shepherding things through it. And he's doing an excellent job. You know, he's definitely, because again, there wasn't a lot of comparison. There were no other Rezes on television that he could point at. You know what I mean? He was the only one. And he's done he's did an excellent job, especially in these first couple episodes of, you know, making it interesting, making it entertaining, and wanting you to get back to, you know, see some more of it.
Yeah, and he was also the way he treated MJ when she was like up in the suite. Like it was his birthday, but he wanted to help his friend out. Like he put her before himself and on his birthday. And he made it one comment. I'm sure he made lots of comments at night, but it was good to see that, you know, he didn't
see, that's where I did. And again, this might be some of my, you know, hung ups on Rez, but I see it differently. I see it that there's better TV up in that room than there is in this nightclub.
Yeah.
No, where you can't even hear me and everybody's screaming and yelling and, you know, people are getting drunk and she's talking to a girl. My drunk friend MJ is right upstairs right now, probably like a wrecking ball.
Mhm,
Because if you've been like, that's what she is when she's drunk. And it's
mhm.
like, I know to go up there because it's better footage and that's better for the show than me
Mhm.
staying down here in this nightclub. That's
I
the
think,
impression I got.
well, I think you hit it the nail on the head, and I view that differently now. I think you're absolutely right. And it's probably where he felt more comfortable because it was about him than in the club where, it's gonna be about all the people around him. So good
Especially
point.
the more you drink, you
Right.
care, the less you care that it's Rez's birthday. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everybody else is looking for someone else to take back to the room or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that, like I said, I think that that was, and listen, you also never know, not to, destroy your opinion of reality television. You
Mm.
also never know, like, when production steps in
Right.
and says, listen, go upstairs.
Mhm,
She's a mess. We want to get
mhm.
that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that happened. I don't know. But that's something like that. You just never know when that happens either. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
when they went to get the foot massage and with Gigi,
Mhm. Yeah.
I guarantee you that was production. They were
Right.
like, you two have a resolution, or you two have a little bit into a argument, you need to fix it. Go fix it. Go have a
Mhm.
conversation. Reza, you mediate, make sure everybody's cool. But like, I highly doubt it was Reza that wanted to put you know what I mean? That,
Yeah.
like, just like Reza didn't rent that room. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
they
right.
rented the room too.
Mhm.
So it's just little elements of that. But
Yeah.
what about, who would you say you like least? And you still feel the same way today?
Mike.
Mike. Mike.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike's
Mike and
taking a
Gigi, I think,
beating.
they're
Mike's
both
taken a beating over the last couple of years.
well,
Deservedly so. I'm not
right.
sticking, but like, I
Yeah.
wonder if I asked you this question and in real time when we were
Mhm.
watching it, if you would say Mike. But
Mhm.
I think now it's, and I think that if we go through this, because I'm trying to ask that, it was Lisa still, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
trying to ask that question. I think I'm going to get a lot of mics. I think I'm going to
Yeah.
get a lot of
Especially
mics.
from women, because they say now, like they use the term like give you the icks. Like there's always those people that like there's something about them that you're just ooh something not they just don't mesh with you and kind of gives you the ick. So
Yeah.
that's Mike, yeah.
Okay. 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 Well, this was a great, great conversation, Joan. It was a great idea on your part. I
Thank
genuinely appreciate it. Is there anything you
you.
want to talk about? Is there any questions you ask? Anything at all? Nothing off limits. Anything you want to get? Lay it on me.
No, this is fun. So I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad I'm going back into the world of Shaw's and seeing it. But I do want to just say congratulations on your success and MJ's success on the podcast, and her success outside of the podcast too, because she's doing great. But and you seem like your family is, you're doing a great job with your family too, and the love that you show your son is really heartwarming. And I've got grandsons. You're at the age of your son, so that's nice to hear like how he's going on and developing his life because it's a parallel to one of my grandsons. So I really appreciate you being open and sharing those moments because
Well,
it's so
listen, he's the best thing
meaningful.
that's ever happened to me.
Hmm.
I never knew that I wanted one, and now I don't know what I would ever do without one. So
Hmm. Yeah.
he makes me happy. Just, no matter how bad the day's going, not to
Hmm.
say I have a lot of bad days,
Right.
but it's always better the second I look at him. So I'm
Hmm.
happy that other people out there can feel that, because
Hmm.
that's the one thing that, the one message I would like to, put out there, is that he's the best and he
Hmm.
makes me better. She makes me better. I think we
Hmm.
collectively make ourselves, or make us as a whole, I think we make ourselves better.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to you, I really appreciate you, Joan. I appreciate, our fans out there and people that, keep us in check and, keep me humbled, because I'm just a guy from Queens. And the fact that, you're going to take time out of a Monday to sit here and talk with me
Hmm.
about my drunk wife, is humbling. And I
Hmm.
appreciate it. And I
Hmm.
thank you. And,
Yeah.
this was, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you taking the time out with me and
Yeah.
sending me that message, because I thought it
Hmm.
was a good idea.
Hmm.
And hopefully people will think it's a good idea, and they'll watch along with us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Tell your family I said hi, and hopefully we'll run into each other somewhere in Southern California one of these days again.
Absolutely. And you have a
Okay.
great rest of your day too, Joan. Okay.
Okay.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.